They don't come with horns or red eyes. They come with temptation, with habits that seem harmless, even pleasurable. But behind closed doors, every time a chosen one gives in to the urge to masturbate, something sacred is taken. Not just energy, but essence. Not just focus, but divine alignment. You feel it, don't you? That emptiness after the act, the subtle guilt, the sudden drop in clarity, confidence, and connection to your higher self. That's not just a feeling, it's a warning. Because chosen ones are born with spiritual currents, and every release isn't just physical, it's spiritual robbery. Demons don't need permission, they need pattern. And when you fall into the loop of self-pleasure, especially when it becomes compulsive or secretive, you open invisible doors, giving dark forces access to your mind, your willpower, and your destiny. This isn't about shaming, it's about awakening. Why do so many chosen ones feel stuck, like they're battling something invisible? Why do their dreams feel distant, their thoughts chaotic, their discipline fragile? Because the moment you bow to lust, you hand over 5 sacred gifts, gifts you were meant to guard with your life. In the next few minutes, I'm going to expose exactly what demons steal from you when you give in to this addiction. Not theories, not opinions, real spiritual consequences. This message isn't for everyone. It's for the warriors, the misfits, the spiritually elite who feel the weight of their calling, but wonder why they keep falling short. If you're ready to see the trap for what it really is and take your power back, this is where it begins. Let's break the silence. Let's reclaim what was stolen. Let's expose the 5 things demons take from chosen ones who masturbate. 1. The erosion of spiritual authority through sin. Spiritual authority isn't just about power. It's about presence. It's the invisible force that surrounds chosen ones, commanding respect, attracting divine protection, and aligning them with a higher purpose. But when sin, especially sexual sin, like compulsive masturbation, enters the picture, that authority begins to fade. Quietly, subtly, and dangerous, masturbation may appear harmless on the surface. Society even normalizes it. But for chosen ones, it's not about the act alone. It's about what it represents: a detachment from divine discipline and a shift toward lower vibrational habits. The body is a sacred vessel, and when it is constantly used to satisfy lust rather than serve purpose, it becomes difficult to carry the weight of spiritual responsibility. Sin weakens spiritual authority because it clouds the connection between the chosen one and the source. Clarity becomes confusion, intuition becomes silence, power becomes passivity. And the worst part, the chosen one often doesn't even realize it's happening until the results in their life start shifting. Opportunities begin to dry up, prayers feel unanswered, confidence wavers, people sense the loss of presence, even if they can't explain it. Spiritual authority thrives on purity, not perfection, but purity of intention, discipline, and direction. When sin is habitual, it chips away at that foundation. And for chosen ones, this erosion has greater consequences. They were born to influence, lead, protect, heal, awaken. Without spiritual authority, their words lose weight, their aura dims, and their impact declines. Demons know this. They don't need to destroy a chosen one. They just need to disconnect them. Habitual masturbation is a tool they use to keep chosen ones stuck in cycles of guilt, shame, and spiritual fatigue. It's not just an addiction, it's a distraction, one designed to strip the chosen one of their divine influence without ever lifting a weapon. But here's the truth: what was eroded can be restored, authority can return, purity can be reclaimed. It begins with awareness, continues with self-control, and grows with divine alignment. Every time a chosen one resists temptation, they rebuild their authority, their presence strengthens, their voice carries more power. Doors that were shut begin to open again, not by force but by favor. To regain authority is to return to your throne, not just as a human, but as a vessel of light, as a spiritual warrior, as someone chosen not to blend in, but to break through. So ask yourself, how much are you willing to lose for a fleeting moment of pleasure? And how much more could you gain by choosing purpose over pleasure? Because spiritual authority isn't given, it's stewarded, and the ones who guard it rule the unseen. 2. The weight of guilt and shame after sin. The chosen ones, sin doesn't just leave a stain, it leaves a scar, and one of the deepest wounds inflicted after giving in to temptation especially with something like masturbation, is the emotional and spiritual burden of guilt and shame. It's not always loud. Sometimes it creeps in quietly in the silence after the act, in the stillness of the night, when no one is watching but your soul knows what happened. Guilt is the inner voice that whispers, "You've fallen short." Shame is the shadow that follows, saying you are not enough. While guilt can sometimes be a moral compass pulling you toward correction, shame is more sinister. It doesn't just tell you that you made a mistake. It tries to convince you you are the mistake. This is where demons work their craft most effectively. After sin, when your guard is down, they step in with accusation, reminding you of your flaws, amplifying your failures, and making you feel unworthy of grace. The chosen ones, who are meant to walk in divine authority, begin to shrink, not because God turned away, but because shame clouded their vision of who they truly are. You see, guilt and shame are not just emotions. They are spiritual weights that drag down your frequency. They dim your light. They isolate you from purpose. When left unchecked, they distort your self-image, poison your confidence, and paralyze your spiritual progress. And perhaps worst of all, they create distance between you and the Creator. Not because He withdrew, but because you start hiding. This is exactly what the enemy wants. For you to stay trapped in cycles, to feel like you've disqualified yourself, to be so burdened by guilt that you no longer pray boldly, so entangled in shame that you stop pursuing your calling. That silent withdrawal from purpose is one of the greatest thefts. But here's the truth most people forget. God's forgiveness is immediate, but healing from guilt and shame requires intention. You can't just brush it off. You have to confront it, confess it, and then consciously release. Spiritual cleansing is more than asking for forgiveness. It's realigning your identity, reminding yourself of who you are without the weight of what you've done. The enemy wants you to bury your mistakes in silence, but freedom comes when you face them in the light. Guilt loses its grip when you stop hiding. Shame weakens when you speak truth over it. You are not defined by your fall. You are refined by how you rise after it. Chosen one, you were never meant to carry guilt and shame as permanent companions. They're signals, not life sentences. Learn from them, then let them go. Your destiny is too important, your mission too sacred, to be delayed by invisible chains. Stand up, wipe your face, and walk boldly back into the light. Because guilt and shame may visit, but they don't belong in a heart chosen by God. Recognizing spiritual attacks after sin, a deep dive. Sin has a profound effect on our spiritual well-being. While it may seem like a simple moral failing or momentary lapse in judgment, its consequences can go far deeper than most people realize. When a person commits a sin, especially one that feels like a break from their values or higher calling, there is an immediate shift in their spiritual atmosphere. This is often when spiritual attacks begin to manifest. Recognizing these attacks is crucial for anyone seeking to stay aligned with their purpose and maintain spiritual strength. But how do we know when a spiritual attack follows sin, and how can we respond? 1. The sudden loss of peace. The first sign of a spiritual attack after sin is often the sudden loss of peace. You might feel like you've lost your center, as if the calmness that once defined your heart and mind has been replaced by an unsettling, chaotic energy. This can manifest as an overwhelming sense of anxiety, restlessness, or confusion. You may also notice an increased difficulty in connecting with your inner peace through meditation, prayer, or other spiritual practice. This loss of peace is a spiritual attack because it disrupts your connection with your true self and with the divine energy that sustains you. The absence of peace creates an opening for negative forces to seep in, often distorting your sense of direction and clouding your judgment. Intensified temptations. After sin, one of the most prominent spiritual attacks you may experience is a heightened struggle with temptation. It's as though the moment you veer off course, the temptation to fall deeper into unhealthy patterns increases exponentially. This can manifest as a flood of intrusive thoughts, impulses, or urges that feel almost impossible to resist. It's not just the natural tendencies that surface. It's as if external dark forces are feeding the desire to continue in that sin, often making you feel trapped. These intensified temptations aren't coincidental. They are spiritual attacks designed to weaken your resolve and prevent you from returning to your true self. The longer you indulge, the stronger these attacks become, creating an insidious cycle that becomes harder to break. 3. Heightened accusation and shame. Another key indicator of a spiritual attack following sin is the flood of guilt, shame, and condemnation that follows. While it's normal to feel regret after making a mistake, when the feelings of shame become overwhelming, crippling, and paralyzing, this is not just a result of your actions. It is a spiritual attack. Accusations will start to flood your mind, making you feel unworthy, disconnected, and beyond redemption. This is the voice of condemnation trying to keep you trapped in your sin, discouraging you from seeking forgiveness or making a change. It magnifies your failures to a point where you can no longer see any possibility of healing. But this is not the voice of truth. This is a demonic attempt to strip you of your confidence and your connection to your divine purpose. 4. Isolation and withdrawal. After sin, many people begin to feel a sense of isolation. This can be a spiritual attack designed to distance you from supportive relationships, communities, and environments that might help you heal or guide you back on track. The enemy knows that when we isolate ourselves, we become more vulnerable to lies, doubts, and further temptation. During this time, you may feel like you are unworthy of love or connection, causing you to withdraw from those who could offer. The isolation creates an echo chamber where the lies and temptations become louder, making it harder to see the truth or take positive action. Loss of spiritual vision. After sin, another form of spiritual attack is the sudden loss of vision or direction in your life. The clarity that once guided your steps seems to fade, leaving you feeling aimless and lost. You may struggle to hear your inner voice, receive guidance through your spiritual practices, or feel disconnected from the inspiration that once fueled your ambitions. This loss of spiritual vision is a tactic to keep you in a state of confusion and doubt, preventing you from realigning with your purpose and higher calling. Without clarity, it becomes much harder to break free from the grip of sin and negative spiritual forces. Recognizing spiritual attacks after sin is essential for regaining your spiritual strength and returning to a place of peace. These attacks are not a reflection of your worth, but rather an effort to keep you from stepping into your full potential. By identifying the signs: loss of peace, intensified temptations, overwhelming shame, isolation, and loss of vision, you can take steps to shield yourself from the influence of these negative forces. Acknowledge the spiritual battle, seek forgiveness, and reconnect with your higher self and divine energy. This process will empower you to move forward stronger and more aware of the forces that seek to derail your path. The loss of inner peace, a silent battle. When you engage in behaviors that go against your true nature, especially those driven by impulse and desire, one of the most profound losses is that of inner peace. This isn't something you can see immediately, nor is it always obvious in the moment. But over time, the toll it takes becomes undeniable, leaving you in a constant state of inner turmoil, restlessness, and mental confusion. Inner peace isn't just a fleeting feeling or a temporary state of calm. It's a deep sense of balance, groundedness, and serenity that comes from living in alignment with your higher self. It's a connection to your purpose, to the divine, and to the spiritual truth that guides your life. When you compromise that alignment, especially through habits that drain your spiritual and mental energy, you're slowly chipping away at the foundation of that peace. Masturbation, particularly when it becomes a compulsive habit or a method of escaping from emotional pain, stress, or loneliness, disrupts the balance within. The act, while seemingly harmless in the moment, creates a temporary but profound disconnect from the inner peace that naturally resides within you. You begin to feel fragmented, torn between your spiritual aspirations and the desires of the flesh. This dissonance is the root cause of the inner chaos that follows. One of the primary ways masturbation steals inner peace is through the cycle of guilt and shame that often follows it. Even if the act is done in secrecy or under the guise of self-indulgence, there's an inherent knowing that it's out of alignment with your higher purpose. That awareness, whether conscious or subconscious, creates an internal conflict that disrupts your peace of mind. It's not just the physical act, but the mental and emotional after effects that leave you feeling unsettled. The more you engage in this behavior, the more you inadvertently train your mind and body to seek instant gratification. This sets up a pattern where peace becomes something you feel you must chase, rather than something that arises naturally. When peace is constantly disrupted, it leads to increased anxiety, stress, and frustration. Every time you give in, you reinforce the belief that you're not strong enough to resist temptation, further eroding your self-confidence and peace of mind. Moreover, masturbation often serves as a temporary escape from discomfort, whether it's emotional pain, stress, or loneliness. However, this temporary release doesn't provide a lasting solution to the root causes of these emotions. Instead, it creates a cycle of avoidance, where the deeper issues remain unaddressed, festering and growing. This perpetual avoidance creates a mental fog, leaving you disconnected from the clarity of thought and emotional stability that are essential for true inner peace. As your relationship with yourself becomes more fractured, your ability to handle life's challenges with calm and wisdom diminishes. Instead of approaching situations with clarity and a centered mindset, you begin to react impulsively, making decisions based on momentary feelings rather than your higher judgment. This reactionary mindset further contributes to the loss of inner peace, as you're no longer operating from a place of strength and alignment. True peace comes from within, but it requires conscious effort to protect and nurture. It's about choosing the path of discipline, self-awareness, and alignment with your higher purpose. The loss of inner peace is a gradual process, often unnoticed until the effects are overwhelming. But by reclaiming control, resisting destructive habits, and reconnecting with your spiritual essence, you can restore that peace and keep it as your foundation. When inner peace is lost, everything becomes harder: your relationships, your career, your health, and your sense of purpose. But it's never too late to return to your center. By choosing to act from a place of clarity and self-respect, you can heal the fractures and rebuild the serenity that is your birthright. 5. The hindrance of your divine purpose by sin. Sin is more than just a moral failure. It's a force that disrupts the flow of divine purpose in your life. Every choice you make shapes the trajectory of your spiritual journey, and when you step away from your higher calling, the consequences are far-reaching. Sin is not simply an act of rebellion against a set of rules, but an attack on the very foundation of your purpose. This is why its impact is far deeper than most realize. The subtle shift of alignment. When you engage in sinful behaviors, you may initially experience temporary relief, pleasure, or satisfaction. However, there's a subtle but powerful shift that happens in your spiritual alignment. Your mind and heart, designed to be in tune with divine purpose, become disoriented. Sin is like a fog that clouds your clarity, preventing you from hearing the subtle whispers of guidance that direct you toward your true path. As you indulge in sin, you slowly begin to deviate from the divine blueprint for your life. Each small compromise creates a ripple effect that makes it harder to align with your higher self. Over time, the fog thickens and the voice of purpose becomes fainter. What was once a clear path becomes uncertain, and you find yourself wandering in a haze, unsure of your next step. The burden on your mind and spirit. Sin places a burden on your mind and spirit that can't be easily shrugged off. It creates a disconnect between your inner self and your higher calling. When you indulge in sin, it builds guilt, shame, and confusion. These emotions weigh heavily on your soul and hinder your ability to fully connect with the divine energy that flows through you. It's not just about feeling bad after making a mistake. It's about how that mistake creates a barrier that separates you from your full potential. Your divine purpose requires clarity, focus, and spiritual vitality. But when your mind is cluttered with negative emotions like guilt or shame, it's nearly impossible to see the path forward. You may feel stuck or disconnected from the higher version of yourself, unable to step into the greatness you were meant to achieve. Sin doesn't just damage your soul, it paralyzes your progress. A distraction from your true calling. Sin by its nature is a distraction. It pulls you away from your purpose and keeps you focused on temporary fleeting pleasures rather than the long-term fulfillment that comes from living in alignment with your divine calling. This distraction isn't always obvious. It may not manifest as a loud or dramatic thought. Instead, it often appears as subtle, everyday temptations that lead you down a path of least resistance. The more you indulge in these distractions, the more you divert your attention and energy away from what truly matters. Your life becomes consumed by the immediate desires of the flesh, and the deeper longing for spiritual fulfillment gets drowned out. As a result, you lose sight of your true calling and fail to fulfill the mission you were put on earth for. The ripple effect on others. Sin not only affects you, it has a ripple effect on the people around you. As you stray from your divine purpose, you may unintentionally lead others astray as well. Your actions and choices create an example for others, and when you live out of alignment with your purpose, it can create confusion and doubt in the lives of those who look up to you. Your ability to inspire, guide, or uplift others is severely diminished when your actions don't reflect the integrity of your divine calling. Those around you may be impacted by the negativity that sin breeds in your life. Whether it's a lack of clarity, a broken spirit, or the inability to act with purpose, the consequences of your actions can influence the people in your circle. Your ability to lead by example is compromised, and your influence becomes a shadow of what it could be if you lived fully aligned with your divine purpose. The path to restoration. Breaking free from the hindrance of sin requires a conscious and intentional effort to return to alignment with your higher purpose. It involves not just the act of repentance, but the dedication to making different choices moving forward. It's about shedding the weight of guilt and shame and embracing the path of healing and restoration. Living in alignment with your divine purpose means making decisions that honor your higher self. It's about choosing to walk away from the distractions, the temptations, and the habits that keep you from being fully connected to the divine flow of energy that is meant to guide you. Restoration is possible, but it requires honesty, commitment, and the willingness to change. Sin may hinder your divine purpose, but it is not the final word. The moment you choose to break free from its grip, you begin the journey back to your true calling. And when you align yourself with your purpose once more, you'll find the clarity, peace, and fulfillment that only come from living in harmony with your higher self. In conclusion, the hindrance of your divine purpose by sin is a powerful force that cannot be underestimated. Sin doesn't merely affect your actions, it deeply impacts your spiritual alignment, clarity, and ability to connect with your true calling. Every time you stray from your divine path, you create barriers both within yourself and in your relationship with the divine. These barriers cloud your mind, diminish your spiritual vitality, and create distractions that lead you further away from your higher purpose. Moreover, sin doesn't just affect you, it has a ripple effect on those around you. The choices you make can inspire or discourage others, and when you live out of alignment with your divine purpose, you not only rob yourself of fulfillment, but also diminish your ability to influence and uplift the people in your life. The power of living with intention, integrity, and alignment with your higher self is immense. But when you fall into sin, you block the flow of that power. However, all is not lost. The path to restoration is always available, but it requires awareness, commitment, and the willingness to embrace change. The key is recognizing the weight sin has on your life and making a conscious effort to return to your divine purpose. Repentance and healing are not just about turning away from sin, but actively choosing to realign with the higher calling you were meant to fulfill. Ultimately, the choice is you can either allow sin to hinder your progress or take steps toward freeing yourself from its grip and embracing the abundant life that comes from walking in alignment with your divine purpose. The journey is always in your hands.